Welcome to your Daily 5 for Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. A week ago, I was fortunate enough to be able to go to San Francisco to a venue called the Commonwealth Club to be able to see in person a conversation that was titled Jeff Jarvis, How We Reclaim the Internet. Now, that entire conversation is actually free to watch on YouTube. I'll link it in the show notes. And it was with, as the title would suggest, Mr. Jeff Jarvis, who I interviewed, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago at this point. And when he was on the show, on that late night you can find in the archive, I believe we were a week or so away from his book, The Web We Weave, his latest book coming out. And much of the conversation at the Commonwealth Club was on the topics, themes, and ideas that that book covers. So you can look at it as kind of selected bits of The Web We Weave in discussion. And it was moderated, I should say hosted, because it was Mr. Jarvis and Rachel Mirau, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, from KQED. She was basically, talking and giving questions, that type of thing. There was some audience Q&A towards the end. But I would really recommend that people watch it because, A, it's a good way of gauging whether you'd want to get the book. The book is fantastic. I'm just about done with it. And the other thing that I really enjoyed about the talk, plus the venue was great. I have to say, the venue, if anybody ever has the opportunity to go, I really liked the space that they did it in. And you'll see in the video, it is a pretty small space, which I actually think really benefited this type of discussion. I don't even know if they had the AV system turned on. I mean, they had it on for the live stream they were doing, but I don't know if there were any actual amplified speakers even in the room. You could hear everybody so clearly. I mean, the acoustics, not that this is going to become an audiophile discussion, but the acoustics in the room were fantastic. And it was just a really nice space. So outside of that, the discussion itself was also really good. And like I said, it is a nice almost teaser for what the book covers in more detail. But also one of the things that Mr. Jarvis makes the point of multiple times is to push back on this idea that the internet has just become something that is set the way that it is and is just going to continue to degrade. One of the things that he talks about is that we as people who exist on the internet have a lot of control on what the future looks like for the internet. And in the book, he lays out the different phases of the internet, including the very early days where there really weren't any guidelines and it was a lot of just people connecting and finding each other and understanding that this was really bringing people who otherwise might never meet and might never interact together. And I've talked about this myself, my optimism for the internet, because I do see it as a way where people who otherwise would never be able to talk to each other can do it. In fact, it would be unlikely that I would have ever gone to this particular talk or be able to talk to Mr. Jarvis outside of the internet. That facilitated that to happen. And so he talks about his optimism for what the internet can be, the next phase of what it becomes, because we're kind of stuck in a very corporate controlled, and I think a lot of people have simply accepted what is a false premise on what the internet now is, that it can't be something positive, that it's just basically a cesspool. And that's absolutely not true, but it will take the actual involvement, the active kind of shaping of what it's going to be by people. And that's one of the points that he makes. One of many points he makes is that, we have to be involved, that we can actually change this thing. And there can be an internet that's better than the one we have today. It may look different in many respects, but it could also be so much better. And so I really enjoyed the fact that it was, unlike a lot of what you hear, when you hear people talking about the internet, when you see a lot of media of it, that is often very, very basically doom and gloom, that it's negative, that it's only making people more miserable, that it's hurting people, that there is another side to that there is community to be found there. There is a positive path forward. Now, I do appreciate the fact that if you watch the talk, he will say at one point that he's not a futurist, and he can't guarantee that that's what will happen, but he has hope that people can actually make things improve in terms of what the internet is and how it functions. So again, the entire talk is free to watch on the internet. And I would encourage people to, if you don't necessarily buy the book, this is a good first stop to just see if you want to engage with the ideas of it. I think the book is great, but I think it's a really, really good talk. It just showcases why Mr. Jarvis is a fantastic speaker. So I really do feel lucky that I was able to go because it just wasn't that far and I was able to make that trip. And I had a great time. I thought it was a great talk. Got to meet him after the fact. Also, Jason Howell, who I interviewed, was there. Got to meet him in person. So again, link is in the show notes. And I would encourage people to watch it. Just watch it. It's only about an hour or so. But I think it's a nice counterpoint to what we often hear about the internet. And that is worth hearing. Later.